Perlesburg was an American writer and novelist. As the daughter of missionaries, she spent most of her life before 1934 in China. Her novel The Good Earth was the best-selling fiction in 1931 and for which she got Pulitzer Prize in 1932. In 1938, she was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature for her truly epic descriptions of peasant life in China and for her biographical masterpieces. She also started an adoption agency called Welcome House in 1948 for the rehabilitation of deprived Asian American children. Some of her best books are China Sky, The Dragon Seed, The Water Buffalo Children, and The Christmas Ghost. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, a great humanitarian, widely recognized as one of the 20th century's greatest political and spiritual leaders, is a supremely successful leader who has applied the principle of non-violence and satyagraha and led India into a land of freedom and a land of unity in diversity. World civil rights leaders from Martin Luther King Jr. to Nelson Mandela have credited Gandhi as a source of inspiration in their struggles to achieve equal rights for their people. This half-naked fakir, as complimented by Winston Churchill, is really a Mahatma. The American writer Perlesburg takes our attention to a different dimension of her thought about the murder of Gandhi. She asks whether the assassin of Gandhi should be killed or not. On 30th January 1948, India witnessed the tragic assassination of Mahatma Gandhi at Birla House in New Delhi. Nathuram Vinayak Godse was his assassin. Gandhi's greatest weapon was non-violence. He has inspired people around the world, and Perlesburg, the American writer and novelist, was one among them. In her words, Mahatma Gandhi came and stood at the door of India's destitute millions, clad as one of themselves. On the death of Gandhi, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru mourned, "The light has gone out of our lives and there is darkness everywhere." Gandhi was a man of great visionary to bring India forward. Gandhi was only one. His voice was single, gentle, and full of wisdom. It was the voice of conscience in our troubled lives. Gandhi knew he was right, and the world knew he was right. Even his murderer knew he was right. Truth is simple to follow. The followers of violence distort truth. The world no more needs violence, hatred, or quarrels, but peace and peacemakers. Non-violence through ahimsa and satyagraha were the ultimate truth to which Gandhi was inclined. His principles and teachings made sense to the common people. He was the voice of the many Indians. His life exemplified whatever he taught his followers. Gandhi has done his part well. Though the indomitable figure is out of our lives, it is the people of India who must take up his qualities and follow it in their lives and move India forward. As Albert Einstein famously said, generations to come, it may be, will scarce believe that such a one as this, ever in flesh and blood, walked upon this earth. He did not wish punishment even for his enemies. Gandhi was often in prison. He might not wish his murderer confined to a prison. His life was ideal, a perfect example for everyone to look on. He was the great leader of moral and right. Gandhi is one of the greatest men the world has ever seen. His ashes are scattered in the waters and over the earth in India. The undefeatable frame, the fearless spirit, the long years, and the high purpose all ended with a gunshot. The ignorant, the stupid inventors of atom bombs, the generals, the captains, the sergeants, and the soldiers are really the lovers of violence. The fate of those who rebel against the lovers of violence is death. With one shot, what is left is only ashes. Today, millions can be killed as easy as one. For these people, there is nothing called conscience. They have no love for truth. They are afraid of truth. They love violence. They love blood. They want power and authority to do what they want, and to achieve their aims, they are ready to kill any number of people. The world longs for goodness and peace. The world searches for righteousness. Gandhi's voice was the voice of conscience in our troubled life. Gandhi said, we must refuse to use violence. Gandhi's words are simple, but they are true. People are afraid of simple truth. Truth does not change. It is more fundamental than the atom itself. If Gandhi's assassin Godse is released, what would his life be? Could he escape what he has done? His own people would not receive him. He will be watched. Nobody would be ready to touch his hand. Women would fear him, and children would be taught to despise him. Where will he find home and friends? He would be an outcast. He will be haunted by Gandhi's spirit. The killer of Gandhi has no conscience, or he would not do it. If he is released, one possibility is that he will kill himself because of the horrendous crime he had committed. The other possibility is that he will reform himself and become a new person. He would devote his entire energy to spread the ideas of Gandhi, whom he had killed. People believed in Gandhi because he did what he told others to do. His own life was an example to others. He was very well aware of the importance of actions speak louder than words. There is no weapon, no bomb, which is more powerful than a great good spirit. India will be great if her people use this force of non-violence. Gandhi has done his part well. Now it is the responsibility of the people of India to take the leadership for non-violence in the world. The world is sick of violence. We are poisoned by hatred and quarrels. We actually want peacemakers. No war brings peace. Violence brings only more violence. India should dare to be worthy of their great man Gandhi, the father of their nation.
1930, India was still the jewel in Britain's imperial crown, but a small man in a loincloth was proving to be a very rough diamond indeed. Mohandas Gandhi, rebel and holy man, was organizing the vast masses of India in an unprecedented resistance movement. He was given eloquent support by his admirer and great friend Pandit Nehru, the man who would eventually become India's first Prime Minister. It would be the last heroic act in the life of the man they called Mahatma, the Great Soul. In January 1948, even as India was being reborn as an independent nation, he was assassinated by a Hindu fanatic who blamed him for the country's partition. Now the Mahatma's countrymen in their grieving millions, Hindus and Muslims, Sikhs and Parsis, were bound together by the enormity of their common loss. A great spirit had moved on. They took the ashes from his funeral pyre and scattered them on the holy river Mother Ganges. It was, Indians believed, both an end and a beginning. Wherever justice and compassion were to be found, the spirit of the Mahatma would live on.